good afternoon, good morning, and good evening to everyone that's joining the latest webinar from Signify Lighting Academy on AI. It's called AI 2.0, AI Beyond AI, and we are absolutely thrilled to be joined today by Juan Ferrari, director at Hoare Lea, and head of their lighting team. I've known Juan a number of years, and I know he has a huge passion for theatre, and there is a brief description that Juan has allowed us to use to introduce him to today. But what he has been in the time that I've known him is a pioneer around the use of AI, encouraged me personally to get in and try it. And I think that is a theme that you will hear a lot is if you're not using AI, just get in there and try it. Try, make mistakes, learn and learn again. And this is something that I encourage as well, based on the guidance that Juan has given me. Just a little bit on Signify. So our purpose has always been with our partners to unlock the extraordinary potential of light, and that is to achieve brighter lives and a better world. Sometimes what we need to do is remind people of the Signify family, and on the next slide, what we try to do is just briefly give you an insight as to what we mean by the Signify family. There are a number of brands associated with Signify, all delivering that same purpose. We call those, if you like, the Signify endorsed brands. You can see them on the outer edge of the slide here. Some names and brands that you'll be familiar with: Philips, Color Kinetics, Cooper, Genlight, depending on which region that you operate in and what market you are in. What you will have seen recently is that Signify themselves have their own brands of families of products. So the Signify Nature Connect, the Signify My Creation, to name two, looking at the human-centric element to lighting and looking at sustainable ways of creating a portfolio using 3D printing. But at the core of what we do, at the core of what Signify stands for, are our programs around our partnerships. Obviously, the academy that you're a part of today, looking at the educational material that we can share with the industry. But fundamentally, it's putting programs together for all parts of the industry. Me personally, I'm heavily involved in a program which on the next slide we call the Pioneers of Light program. It is a program dedicated to lighting designers and lighting engineers. And on that journey, we use platforms like this to give our design community a voice. So this is where we're looking at collaboration and knowledge sharing, but they're only just two pillars of what the program is built up on. We want to inspire the world with different technologies and innovations that create beautiful projects. We want to provide tools that support everyone on this journey. Some of these tools may be AI, and you can experience some of these at the Pioneers of Light portal. So yeah, as I said, this is part of that program. And without me talking anymore, I'm going to hand over to Juan to take you through his journey with AI and AI 2.0. Thanks, Juan.
Thank you, Darren, for the kind introduction. And hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good night, wherever you are in the planet. This is quite a gathering, they told me. I'm going to reintroduce myself because I think there is a lot of this that has to do with my personal experience. So, as Darren was saying, I'm Juan Ferrari. I'm a director at Hoare Lea. It's an engineering firm or engineering consultancy in the UK. I'm also a father of three. I am... as a trade, I'm a lighting designer. Here you have me burning my fingers in an old technology lamp. This was a metal halide many years ago. I like things like narrative lighting. I like things like lighting controls. And this is a tiny endeavor just to show what my views are in lighting controls, or traditional lighting controls as they are known, and how much they are extinct, and they're giving way for a new way of lighting controls. I liked collaborating with artists, and I collaborated with many artists in terms of lighting design for my life. I like AI. I'm really keen on AI, and I like to talk a lot about the value of light. And I do speak quite a bit about lighting most of the time. This one is not one of those talks. This one is one of the talks that gets me talking about the things that I don't know. So I would say that I don't know anything about AI, but here you are. You have me giving you a seminar, and that's a good thing. That is a good thing. So let's talk about the expert that I'm not prequel. I think it's important that you know, for you to know how I got here. It didn't happen by chance, or it did. Back in 2022, in November 2022, I was in my car driving to a company-wide convention in sunny Birmingham, very much sunny like today here in the UK. It was in the middle of the winter, and one of my dearest colleagues was as a co-pilot, working on his phone and chatting with me about life, about weather, about many other things, as you do when you're actually driving with somebody else. Halfway through our uneventful trip, he decided to change the subject, and he said, have you tried ChatGPT yet? And my answer was a straightforward no. Little did I know that 7 months down the line, I would be talking at a main lighting conference as an expert about AI. So here's your expert. I would say that since that day, my life, and particularly my professional life, have changed drastically. My first interaction with this new generation of AI available to everyone in the car was on my way to Birmingham. As we were driving, we started playing with ChatGPT, and I asked my colleague to type the following prompt. Describe what considerations should I take when designing the lighting of an office space. Very simple prompt. I won't bore you with the response that the AI gave me, but I would challenge you or any of you to give me a better answer. You can write it on the chat. I will also grant you an hour to do so you can write that towards the end of the day. And I can tell you that by the end of it, if you type it on your own, I would probably prefer the AI version of it. Aside from a few Americanisms at that particular point, this was my first interaction with ChatGPT. I would say that the description was lighting guidance ready, which surprised me to bits. So I was so impressed that I started playing around with the many AIs that were available on the internet. I would ask for generic descriptions for lighting design text, or ask the AI to change the tone of a lighting writing that I have produced in the past. I have done this in the past to refresh some of the general introductions that we use for projects, for example. At that point, I was thinking to myself, this is too easy. I don't feel right. I do feel like I'm cheating. And I started having philosophical thoughts. Can I be trusted as a lighting designer if I'm using AI? Will I lose my reputation if I'm found out I have a company computer and they know everything that I do? Will one day I receive a phone call from HR saying, Juan, we need to speak. You have been using illegal software for work purposes, and worse, you have allowed a machine to influence it, and in some cases, write what you are presenting professionally. I was really scared. Remember, this was 2022. At that same time, the IALD, this prestigious body, was actually calling for papers for the IALD Berlin. And I submitted a few papers, as I usually do, because it's a platform that I use in order for me to actually test my apologies. Let's go back to test my new subjects which I am researching, and we have submitted that year a fundamental paper which talks about the North Star. The North Star was a well-researched paper that condensed years of analyzing our practical approach to lighting, arriving at an educational conclusion of how we as professionals approach lighting design in a planet-conscious and people-centered way. As I say, this is not my only work, but also the work of my intelligent, capable, and respectful colleagues. So the North Star is a company-wide initiative. I believe that there isn't a more suitable paper for that lighting gathering, a more informative and educational and profoundly relevant professional paper. For this reason, I will actually take 2 minutes and I'll ask you to actually listen to it, because I think if you can join us in Hoare in this quest, that would be important. And also, I submitted a paper about AI written by AI. So let's look at the North Star first, and we'll go back to AI in a second.
Light sits at the heart of human nature and how we perceive our planet. But has it been lost in our buildings? For too long, lighting design has been a luxury. What happens if we chart a different course, if we hold ourselves to a better standard? Our 5 commitments are carving out our new direction for us and the industry. Designing lighting for humans to thrive challenges us to put people first, but also highlights how a healthy planet is a fundamental facet of this. A balance of both is where it begins. We then need to build a rich and diverse diorama of projects that span scales and social groups. The benefits of lighting design must be felt by all, for it is deserved by everyone. And we are all part of one ecosystem, so the physical products of our work must fit into this cycle through their ecological impact, energy efficiency, carbon reduction, and reuse or recyclability. Together, this new way of thinking, this new way of doing, can illuminate the way for others. Why hide what we learn when the benefits of sharing success can empower our colleagues and collaborators? We want everyone to see the change and stand alongside us in our mission, because mission it is. Advocating for ambitious ecological and energy efficient standards in our world is a race against time. Policies must be more holistic, bolder, and brought in faster. We cannot let lighting's role in the climate change emergency slip between our fingers. So let's shake off the shackles that have held back lighting for so long. Let's light the way and showcase how human-centric and planet-conscious lighting design can be. It means the world to us. What about you?
So I had this this very, very solid paper regarding our North Star, which actually look at the way that we approach lighting in a planet-conscious and people-centric manner, and how those two things could actually work together. And at the same time, I had a paper written by AI about AI and how AI will influence lighting in the future. And I had a flashback at that particular point. I had a friend of mine in the secondary school that submitted a poem to the Cambridge University that it was word by word the lyrics of the song of the Doors. He won the competition. He was praised by teachers in school and kept the money for the prize. He's now the editor of a multinational publishing company. And he was an absolute cheat, if you ask me. It was always a cheat. And I felt like I was cheating by writing a paper with an AI. But nevertheless, I pressed send. So at the end of this point, I actually succumbed to the temptation of actually sending that AI paper, and that paper got selected. That put me in an absolutely really critical situation, not knowing anything about AI and having to talk about AI at a conference in front of thousands or hundreds of people. At the same time, before I was presenting, there was a guy called Boris Endelgassen, a German. I'm not sure if you remember him. He wins a photographic competition, but declines the award. He used AI to generate the winning entry. He stated that he did this to spark a debate. Notably, he also experienced guilt for cheating and returned the prize. He described his guilt in a classy way, saying, "With my refusal of the award, I hope to speed up this debate." It was fascinating, but he was an absolute cheat, wasn't he? If I was Boris at that particular point, I would have said, "Sorry, I want to refuse my spot in at the ILD," and I wouldn't have presented. But I did the opposite. I said, "Well, I want to actually learn about this," and I did present at that conference. If you smell fish, then you're right. Here's the catch. I'm not an expert in AI, as I said. I'm just someone who embraced change when it happened and found himself in a position to speak about something that is reshaping our industry. It is reshaping the world. So I see myself as a converted person, a person that actually will torture people, and as Darren was mentioning before, of using AI just to try it. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about AI. Let's start at the very beginning. What is AI? AI, or artificial intelligence, refers to the simulation of human intelligence in machines that are programs to mimic and replicate cognitive functions such as learning, problem solving, and decision making. It involves the development of computer systems or algorithms that can analyze data, recognize patterns, and make autonomous or intelligent decisions. This concept has been in our dreams throughout history, and believe it or not, the term AI has been around us for at least 70 years. A quick timeline about AI. If you think that is a 70-year-old only thing, know that the Greeks were already dreaming about it. They had the myths for example, the high fetus that created Talos, an automata to protect Crete, a robot, and Pygmalion that sculptured Galatea, which got brought to life, something like Pinocchio. Yeah. But coming a little bit closer in time, in 1950 and 1955, a computer scientist called Alan Turing, that you will know, there is a movie about him, proposed a test for machine intelligence. If a machine can trick humans into thinking, it is a human. Then it is an intelligent machine. There is an intelligence in it. The term artificial intelligence is then coined by computer scientist John McCarthy to describe the science and engineering of making intelligent machines. In 1964, a little bit of a leap, but part of they're all connected. All of these people were connected together. So everybody that actually was working in AI at that particular point knew each other and knew about each other. So Joseph Wainsbaum in 1964 builds ELISA, an interactive program that engages in dialogues in English language on any subject. Between 1966 and 1997, there was an AI winter, a period that reduced funding and interest in AI research. I believe that most of us here were born during this period, and therefore, I suppose that we didn't get the hype of the previous years, and therefore we never have heard about AI until ChatGPT appeared. In 1997, there was a wake-up call. The Deep Blue chess machine by IBM defeats the world chess champion Garry Kasparov. You might remember that. I don't think that we were talking about AI. We were talking about a machine beating a person. But this was the beginning of AI. And then between 2011 and 2014, the humanoids perception of AI started to appear through the smartphones apps like Alexa, Siri, and Google Now. Which these ones will use natural language to answer questions and provide recommendations and perform actions. And as we were saying at the beginning, in November 2022, ChatGPT appeared, and the AI chat box was developed by OpenAI. And this is where we started thinking at a relentless pace in terms of AI. And then there is competition. We can mention a million of competitors to ChatGPT nowadays, but there were things that come before and there were things that came after, but now they're all there available. So in the past 2.5 years since I've submitted that abstract for the ILD presentation, unprecedented development had occurred in the AI field. So the pace of this progress is probably equatable to the change that smartphones brought to our lives. Remember when we have phones that were only phones? And now we have phones that are everything in our hands. This happened with no time whatsoever. And I predict that the same thing is happening with AI, if not at a quicker pace. A little bit more formally, because when we talk about AI lately, we talk about generative AI. So let's actually try to discuss what that is, a little bit of formal information. So artificial intelligence is the field of making machines think and act like humans, as Alan Turing was describing. Then there is symbolic AI and machine learning AI. Symbolic AI uses logic, if and then rules written by people. So if, for example, if the temperature is below 18 degrees, then turn the heating on. Yeah. Machine learning is slightly different. It learns from data instead of being told what to do. For example, if from the email filters that learns what is spam and what is not spam in your inbox. Then following the path of symbolic AI, there is expert systems, who encodes expert knowledge and rules to give advice or decision. So for example, a medical tool that suggests treatment based on symptoms. And then there is deep learning, use neural networks to find patterns. So this is connected to machine learning, use neural networks to find patterns in a huge amount of data. On that same line, generative AI appears, and this is what we know the most. So generative AI can create new things, text, images, or sound from what it has learned. So ChatGPT or Midjourney, generating design, imagery is generative AI, and that's usually what we are talking about AI when we talk about AI now. In the future, there would be another layer. We're not there just yet. Something called neurosymbolic AI or world model. They're connected together. Basically, that combines logical reasoning with patterns learning from smarter more explainable AI. So an example of this would be a robot that both learns from the environment and reasons about causes and effects. If I push this person off the cliff, he will fall. So watch it. Hasta la vista, baby. The robots are coming. And world model building refers to the next step of AI development, where machines try to build an internal understanding of how world works rather than just spotting patterns in data. So we are going to talk about probably generative AI today. There is some symbolic AI in the things that we are actually doing, but it's mainly machine learning and generative AI that we will be speaking next. So how do I use it? Currently, when we speak about AI, as I said, we talk about generative AI. So how do I use ChatGPT, for example? And what is that as a lighting designer? How is that changing my life? So English, as you probably noticed by now, is my second language. And it before, when I have to write anything meaningful, I would have had to spell check it by my word processor in Word. And then I would probably have to give it to one of my colleagues for them to read it back to me and to tell me where I was not speaking English and I was speaking a different language. And that has changed now. I don't have to waste anybody else's time. I actually do that through ChatGPT in my case, but there are other AIs that can do that. And I process every word text that I actually send out through an AI to make sure that it means what I want to say and it actually spoke in proper English. I had a colleague of mine once told me something on the lines of, well, but you are actually, this doesn't sound like you. And it actually sounds like me more and more nowadays, to the point that I actually prefer not to sound like me, because if I sound like me, I won't be as clear as I want to be with certain things that I'm saying. And I want to, my objective is usually when I communicate to be as clear as possible. I think that Google is dead, and in the same way that traditional lighting controls are kind of struggling too. It's Google will probably disappear, and it's actually already built an AI assistant within their search engine, because most of us are not using Google anymore to search. I actually use, again, in this case, ChatGPT. This is not a ChatGPT show, but I use that as a software because it's the one that is allowed in my company because of a particular version that all of the things that we actually input into the AI is not get shared for the model to learn. It just learns for us. It doesn't learn for, so all of the information is secure in that sense. So I'll speak about security in a second, but I don't use Google anymore. And then the word processor, what comes first? Do I write first and then I get the AI to check it, or do I ask the AI to write it and then I check it? I have to admit that I do both. When I'm lacking inspiration, I sometimes bounce ideas in that respect. So I actually do both things. And the most important thing here is I'm saving loads of time by doing this. I'm saving not only my time, but my dear colleagues that used to actually check all of the things that I used to write. And then I use it to process images. In lighting design, we work, as you all probably know, we work with a lot of reference imagery. And these are some of the images that we created back in 2023. So you can see that they're kind of old and pixelated, nevertheless of a degree of quality. And we'll go up to what we're actually working with nowadays. But this is what we were doing in 2023. And I have a little video. This one has subtitles. So I will let it play unless anybody from Signify tells me that they don't want to see it. I would let it play and I'll let you read it. Unfortunately, it was spoken by a robot, but you won't be able to hear it. Or hopefully you will. I'll see you on the other side of this little video.
We investigated the potential benefits of using AI text-to-image generators for engineering visualization and lighting designs. We started by selecting a group of applications that created visuals from a written prompt. These applications work via a generative neural network process which draws, reviews, and redraws a written prompt many thousands of times until it thinks it has a correct visual approximation of the text prompt. In simple terms, we wanted to see if these applications could reliably produce visuals of the type that we are regularly asked to produce. To get started, we had to learn the prompt-based production method consisting of a written description, output review, refinement, reiteration, and upscaling. The process is very fast compared to the normal process of creating visuals. We tested the AI to create full engineering visualizations from scratch, concept visuals from scribbles, enhancing existing visuals as well as lighting treatments on conceptual renderings, public photography, and Google Street View images. Trying many different prompts to test a variety of styles, the initial output looked great, and we could iterate through many ideas very quickly. However, on review we found warped geometry, changes in materials and color temperatures, pipes, ducts, or wires leading to nowhere, or impossible configurations that made no sense and could not be corrected with revised prompts. Could text-to-image generators be used to create, improve, or democratize materials currently produced by the visualization team? No. Not yet. Is it useless? No. It's great for some concept work, evocative concept stage visuals, the creation of texture maps, predictive rendering, and marketing graphics, all supporting the traditional visualization pipeline. The output may look great superficially, but at a technical level it devolves to gibberish as the AI currently lacks sufficient reference or understanding of what it is being asked to represent. The AI understands how a pipe or duct should look, but not their purpose or why they need to bend in a certain way or connect to a certain point. These systems would need to be trained with a specific understanding of MEP and lighting data. We are aware that some architects are working with AI developers on the next generation of tools which will incorporate this technical background. So, watch this space, the robots are coming.
I absolutely adore this little video, and we did this video at the end of 2023. So the previous images were the beginning of the 2023, and this were towards the end. We have actually done an enormous amount of work of trying to understand this technology and use it for lighting design and engineering purposes. There was at that particular point, and there's still a lot of fear because, as we were saying, the robots are coming. But what are we afraid of? And that people have fears of losing their jobs, and actually nobody lost their jobs when calculators appears. You know that the word calculator used to refer to a human being, and nowadays nobody will think about a human being when somebody says calculator. So there was a man or a woman that was very good at doing maths and could be able to calculate things, and that was a calculator. And when this little device appeared, nobody really lost their jobs. So nobody, it wasn't masses of calculators complaining in the street. They were scared, definitely, when they came out, but nevertheless, they didn't lose their job. They probably retrain, and they probably became accountants or experts in the field of calculating. Same thing happens with AutoCAD. Some of us will remember this. There was a time in which we would have hand drawing, and all of a sudden AutoCAD appeared, and we thought that we were going to lose our jobs to people that could actually draw very quickly in CAD. And the reality was that we all train CAD and we all use it as a tool. The same thing happened with Photoshop. Those who come from a more artistic backgrounds, and from photography, they would have feel that Photoshop was the end of photography. Nothing like that. It actually it democratizes. It has democratized photography. And in terms of lighting, when the lighting calculation software like Relux or Dialux came out, we thought that we were going to lose our jobs because everything was going to be automated. And nevertheless, we have actually thrived in those sorts of environments. So the fears that people have will not be relevant in that respect. And we also have privacy concerns, and it is true that there is a risk when you start sharing information. You know that I was talking about ChatGPT Enterprise, the one that we use at work, that actually deals with that sort of privacy problem. But that's not, privacy is a problem with the internet. Privacy is a problem with anything that has to do with the web. Privacy is that problem that will be an AI problem, but it goes across many of the different things that we're already doing. So it's no different. There are ethical concerns, and basically we're talking about jobs, and we're talking about the lack of human oversight, and there is solutions for that. There is ethical concerns regarding transparency issues, open sources, or those closed sources, and that conversation. And I think that we will get there, as we have got there with mobile phones, for example, the Apple versus Microsoft. It's a clear example of that. One closed source, the other one open source. We all live with that, and we don't have any problems with living that. There is reasons and causes for horses, as they say in English, for everything. And then there is ethical implications in critical sectors. particularly in healthcare and finance, and those are going to be dealt with or are being dealt with. So there is quality concerns. Definitely, we have to have a human in the loop. And I was discussing it at the Signify conference not that long ago, that we should have an AI in the loop. We should have a machine in the loop as opposed to a human in the loop. We should be responsible still for the quality of the outputs that we issue, but the machines should be able to actually help us with those outcomes. And there is a real bias issue with the way that we train our data, but that's the data that we are generating. So we'll talk about data in a second, but it is quite important that we clean our algorithms from biases. We actually enhance the lack of diversity that the training information have on these models. There are obviously anything that has to do with transparency issues and the social impact that AI can have in terms of reinforcing stereotypes and social equity. It's quite an important thing that we have to deal with. But that's across our society. It's not just on AI. So I would put that into society and the data that we train AI on, which is a reflection of our society. So I would very much want to working on the basis of trying to eradicate all of these biases, both from society and from AI. I'm going to do a little bit of a parenthesis here, and we're going to do a meanwhile, because meanwhile in the lighting industry, we sent a survey about how I was actually curious about how people were engaging with AI. This was about 3 or 4 months ago already, and I've sent a survey to my friends, and I was quite surprised that a lot of the people in lighting were not concerned and didn't see AI as a challenge or adopting AI as a challenge. They felt that in lighting design terms, one of the biggest challenges that we are perceived as a luxury status and lack of professional recognition, but not necessarily the third one from the bottom, which is AI automation and low-cost competition. That was not one of the considerations, and there was nothing relevant to training in AI. There was nothing relevant of actually keeping up to date with AI, which I think is quite concerning, because this is one of the challenges that we have, and one of the things that I will push over and over again. We need to get people to use AI, and it's just about using it. At the same time, on the same survey, I asked the following questions: how much are you using AI? And this was the result for it. And I'm not that concerned concerned at all about the people that were using it in one way or another, because they're doing that thing. Yes, I'm sorry, I'm just reading that 66 people, 29 responded statistically significantly valid. Not really, sorry. I'm not going to go into a chat back and forth to read the questions, but this is just a very quick exercise that I did, because I see this as a reflection. I still find 3 years down the line that having been using AI and talking to people, that a lot of people respond and say no AI usage. So it doesn't matter if it's 5 people. There are the 5 people that has responded to me that they are not using AI without noticing that they are using AI every day when they're using Spotify, for example. Yeah, when they're using their mobile phones, when they're searching for something in the web. So that's quite incredible that people not even realize that they're using AI without using it. The most incredible thing is that they're refusing to engage with the technology. It's like refusing to engage with mobile phones. It's exactly that. And that's quite concerning. And within an industry, what we're trying to do is try to eradicate that. I think that we're all better off trying to engage with AI, understanding what the reaches for AI are in regards to lighting design, and anything that has to do with the construction industry. So moving forward from that, what is AI 2.0? So where do we go from here? So as I was saying, I have been challenging people to move out of the comfort zone with a growth mindset, a space that's more demanding, but ultimately more rewarding. I say, why wouldn't we do this? I find it interesting to actually feel that people are not doing this. So the worst that could happen is that we fail. But even if we fail at using this technology, and even if this technology fades away, which is not what I believe will happen, we would have learned something. And we human beings are all about learning, so we should continue learning. So as a as a nugget for you to take home is we need to embrace and make sure that everybody embraces and uses AI. It's difficult to tell people what they should be doing if you are not doing it. And although what I was asking people is to embrace AI, and I was doing it to a certain extent, people start asking me what is next, you know? So I decided to study. So last year, I enrolled on an apprenticeship course. It's called AI for Business Value, a program that teaches how to apply business analysis and transformation techniques to identify, design, and deliver AI solutions that create measurable values for organizations. And what did I learn? I learned many things, but there are two key ones that I want to talk about today: data and what is the problem. So let's start with data. Data within studying, it became very clear that to get value out of AI or any AI tool that you're using, you need to actually have good quality data. And in terms of design, I think that data is a new material of design. Lighting design needs more than lux levels, uniformity, and EPD as data. In lighting design, we always use data like lumen outputs and reflectance values and compliance metrics. But AI showed me that business data matters just as much as workload, resourcing, and sustainability. Data became more than a tool for calculations, but became the foundations for decision making. And this is quite probably the most important lesson that I learned last year. Data is now a must-have, but not just any data, because that's the noise that will interrupt your learning and that will interrupt you using AI in a meaningful manner. It has to be high quality and well-structured data. So bad data is counterproductive in AI. Train a model on poor data and you will inevitably fail. In fact, even if you learn and try to actually add good data to that model that you created with bad data, the damage from the bad data is permanent. So data for us as design people is the new design material, and we should consider it in every single thing that we do. And the second thing is, what is the problem? And you need to find something to apply AI to. So a simple problem will do. So find yourself a problem that you want to resolve. Don't try to go to AI without any sort of understanding of what you're trying to do, because AI won't be helpful. For me, that problem was always tackling inefficiency. So I run a design team of 25 people, and we always feel that we are not efficient enough. We take too much time in doing and duplicated documentation. I'm going to talk about that in a second. And we were spending more time in admin than on design. Yeah, we're spending more time on processes than on actually thinking about design. So the challenge and drivers shifted. I wasn't trying to ensure that everything that I do wasn't a cheat anymore, but I was actually, or was trustworthy for a better word, but I was trying to see how it could free up from some of the repetitive work that I keep on doing over and over again. So the tackling the inefficiency problem became my quest. I moved from being scared about being caught using AI to see how I start resolving real problems so I can do other things. So I'm going to let you into a little secret. In 2020, we put a 5-year business plan within the lighting team in Hoare Lea, and we actually start understanding all of our design process. I'm not going to bore you with the details of that, but you can see each one of those boxes being some of the design processes. And we started actually mapping up how some of them were quite repetitive. And we were doing a lot of repetition. For example, we actually did a Photoshop image, and then we actually put all of that information into a drawing, but then went into a model, and it was kind of changing program after program. So we started in Photoshop, we then moved into CAD, and then we moved into Revit, and it was really time consuming. So we thought that this is pre-AI, that we will actually start simplifying all of that, and Revit was the tool that we were actually going to move forward with. And obviously, we managed to cancel some of those processes by using one model and generating all of the image that we need in concept from those models that we then fill our requirements from a documenting point of view on the information that we issue. But then AI disrupted us, and my first quick sketch about how AI would influence was this. All of the red lines would mean that AI would influence everything that we do at every stage of design, And it was a little bit of a statement in 2023 when I stated this for the first time, but nowadays becomes more and more obvious that this is the case. And this is how our processes look now. So I managed to map every single process that we have in lighting design, or I hope most of them, and actually interlink them of how we go backs and forwards to then be able to go back to them. Yeah, and in the case of my first challenge this year was to tackle this little bit, small bit of the process that is shown here, which is just the stage 1 and 2 information that we issue as lighting designers with AI. So here we are. So let's talk about what we did. So I created something that is called the AI lighting assistant, which is basically something based on training a ChatGPT on doing the very basic work of room data sheets, yeah, and actually giving me luminance levels and different sort of information that we issue out to our clients at a stage 1 in design documentations. To my surprise, some of my engineering colleagues, yeah, I work on an engineering firm, so there are electrical engineers that do lighting, were already experimenting with building a bot in ChatGPT to tackle some of them their own daunting stage 1 tasks, which were similar to mine and similar to my teams. They gave me the confidence that this wasn't just theory, and we already started, and we were not alone. So Jameson Blaine, which is one of the engineers that I work with at Hoare Lea, started experimenting with this, and this is his program, the one that you can see on the screen. We basically uploaded a plan and extracted detailed information from the drawings, creating a skeleton of room data sheet. As it learned, it asked, do you want me to include room dimension? And of course, then we answer, yes, please. And then you can then ask it to tabulate the data in a neat table format instead of the code that it starts actually outputting with. You can edit the information easily. You can even ask them to reference the information. So, for example, if we want to know where is the information being extracted, it will actually tell you, well, I took this from a European standard, I took this from a British standard. So you can see everything becomes very easy. So from a drawing that we receive from an architect, we can issue room data sheets, information quite quickly. But there was a big but there. When I started looking at this for the first time, I started finding big mistakes. For example, that the output was always called stage 3, RIBA stage 3. And this is information that we issue at stage 1. From there downwards, there was confusion with the codes. So again, we needed to train this with the right information. And we did. And we're in a position now that this sort of information would be outputted from ChatGPT bot, probably with the same accuracy that an engineer would create a table with. So that's quite impressive. And this is half of the stage 2 task that I tasked myself for this year. So this is the technical side. The other was the visual side of the work that we produced. So for that, we use Midjourney. And I have been using Midjourney. All of the images of this presentation, most of them, not all of them, but most of them are created with Midjourney and then animated in other programs. So this was version 5 of Midjourney with the first prompt that I say basically is an office with a lot of green and all of that was described on the first prompt. This is version 5. This is version 7. Yeah. And nowadays with Midjourney, within the year, you can generate this sort of videos. So with the video V1, which is the video model that Midjourney is offering, look at the quality of the image that you're actually producing. And that actually goes, when I was playing the video regarding all of the visual information that we were producing back in 2023 and how we felt that the robots were coming, I think that this is a lot more accurate. It's not perfect. It needs to have a human in the loop, but it's actually starting to convey very, very relevant ideas very, very quickly, all with the same cue. So it's with the same prompt. As another example of this, I'll just talk you very quickly because I'm conscious of time and I know that we all need to do other things. The top left image is a picture, is a CGI image that we created for the Clifton Suspension Bridge, a project that we're working on currently, and it's very dear to our hearts. We wanted a colored version of this, which we have done a CGI of, and the middle one was the colored version of the lighting treatments that Midjourney V7 produced. And then the right-hand side is a quick video done in video mode of the bridge. And it's quite impressive. I will tell you that nobody will circulate at that speed in at the Clifton Suspension Bridge. But nevertheless, this is an amazing tool that has done this in no time whatsoever. The bottom left one is a real image of one of our projects, the Park Theatre, a lovely studio theatre in London. This image exists forever. It's a real image. There is no CGI in there. And the right-hand image is a video created from that same image. And there is people with two heads, don't get me wrong, but it's quite convincing that it could be an extract of a video created on that night, that opening night for the Park Theatre. So where are we now? So back in 2023, I felt that AI was a disruption and there was a little bit of a cheat. By 2025, today, it has become a structure, ethical, and creative co-designer for me. It's not about replacing us, it's about augmenting us. But we must embrace the change. I don't think that we have the option to ignore it. I believe we should be using AI and keep helping others to use it in the right way. If we don't engage, we risk misinformation and we risk misuse. If we don't know, they can trick us. So we need to know. But if we know how it works, well, when it's being used and whether it's not being used properly. So we need to make sure that we know when things are not being used properly, when there are things that are fishy, as I was saying at the beginning, when there is a trick, when there is something that is not going to become reality, and we're going to be misinformed. We have a lot of misinformation nowadays, and AI is capable of generating better quality misinformation if we cannot pick it up. My biggest learning was that AI success is cultural as much as it's technical. It's not just the technical advancement. It's like smartphones. It would be a cultural success. Last year, I felt that we were standing still at a crossroads, deciding where or not to take AI as a path. Today, I believe that we are really walking the road, and it's proving to be an absolute great one. The value of AI is absolutely infinite at this moment. It could advance us really, it could speed us in any single aspect of our lives, not only lighting, in every single aspect of our lives. We will see it do great advancements in medicine. We will see them do great advancements in psychology. We will see it do great advancement in anything that has to do with our lives. So the question is, what are we going to do? Are we going to keep on actually watching this happen, or are we going to embrace it? And as I always like to do, I like to leave people with one little question at the end. So I wanted you to complete the pictogram, and it would be lovely that you can actually post on the chat, but if you cannot, don't worry. So in the first pictogram, you have a human inviting a robot. Then in the second pictogram, you have a human kind of arguing with a robot. On the third pictogram, you have the robot and the computer and the human leaving the room. Now, we would say that there are many outcomes on that front. So the human might have left upset and the robot have taken control, but the human might go to live his life in a fulfilled manner and leave the daunting tasks of the work behind. So it's about what we want our future to be at this particular stage. And I would like to be that man walking out of the door and spending more time with my family, because a computer is much more efficient than I am in producing reports that I will author. I will read them, but I won't have to actually be able to typing them on my own.